Now before I teach you how to create watercolor calligraphy using a dip pen, I want to show you the ideal watercolor calligraphy setup. Now first, of course, I've got my dip pen. It is fitted with a Nico G nib. I've got a brush. I couldn't tell you what size this is since the finish has worn off, but you can see that it's pretty small. I've got my syringe. You can also use an eyedropper just to get my watercolors moistened. Of course, I've got my watercolors. These are the Altoids tin by Greenleaf and Blueberry, super great for traveling. And I've got my container of water. I am actually not in Colorado right now where I normally live. I am in San Diego, California. So what I did was I put the nibs in this container, which is kind of like a film container, and I'm using this same container for water. So that's something to keep in mind if you're traveling. And since I am traveling, I am using a paper towel. It's not ideal because it's more fibrous than you want for cleaning off your nib, but it does work. So if that's all you've got access to, no problem. So first, I am going to teach you how to write using one color. And what you're going to do is put water in your syringe or eyedropper, and then choose a color you want and moisten it. So I want to write with turquoise, so I'm going to put some water in there. Get rid of the excess water. I'm going to wait just a couple of seconds for that water to soak in. And then I am going to stir up the water with the watercolor in order to get sort of an inky consistency. And move my paper here a little bit. Now, since I'm writing with a straight pen, I am going to use Amy style calligraphy. And what you're going to want to do is just paint the watercolor paint on the nib. And you can see that I'm using the nib's edge to sort of get the watercolor off of the brush. And just a few strokes of the brush on the nib should be fine. I've got a good amount on here. It doesn't look like it's going to drip when I put it vertical, and that's good. So all you do is just write with it as you would if you were using normal ink. And see how great that writes? That's why this is so wonderful to travel with, because your paints aren't messy, they're not going to spill on anything while they're in your suitcase because they're dry, but then once you moisten them, you can use them just as you would any other calligraphy ink. Now, I want to show you, I did get too much ink or too much watercolor on the nib this time, and I'm afraid that when I turn it vertical, it's going to blob on my paper. So all you're going to do in that case is just give it a swift shake above the water. And that's how you use one color in watercolor calligraphy. And one of the cool things about writing using watercolor, and you can see I'm just washing off the nib here. One of the cool things about writing with watercolor is you can actually create an ombre effect by using several watercolors, which will blend in the nib. So in order to do that, you're just going to choose 2 to 3 colors of watercolor that you think will blend well. I'm going to go with sort of a sunset theme. So I'm going to moisten my red, my yellow, my orange, and my yellow. You'll just wait a couple of seconds for those to soak in. I do want to point out while these are soaking in that these are professional grade watercolors. That means that they are going to be really vivid when they dry. You don't have to use professional or artist grade watercolors. You can use you know, just student grade, that's okay. It won't be as vivid, but no problem. Okay, so first I am going to start by putting some orange on the tip of my nib. And as you're creating these ombre colors, you'll want to make sure that you put your brush in the water between changing colors. So let's just start with one letter with only this color on the nib. Okay, now that I've created that letter, I'm going to put some red on there. And I'm just putting it behind the orange so it's going to blend as I write, because gravity works to your advantage in this case. As you're writing, the paints blend together and it makes a really natural effect. And you can see that's very organically turning into red. Now at this point, I'd like to add some yellow to sort of balance the word out and revert it back to a lighter hue. So again, just add some yellow and it's all going to blend together. And it looks like I've got a little too much paint on here, so again, I'm just going to give it a swift shake. And see how that word changed colors. In the back of the nib here, there's no pure yellow, and I do want to end the word with a pure yellow, so I'm going to just rinse off my nib here, use my paper towel to wipe it off. Then I'm just going to put some pure yellow on. And in the word with yellow. And I've got a nice sunny effect, and no one is going to be able to identify exactly how you did this because I don't think it's a widely known technique. So that's pretty cool. The last thing I'm going to show you is, if you are an oblique pen user, I want to display how to use the oblique pen. It's really the same principle. All you do is paint the watercolor on. I'm using a Browse extra fine nib here, so just keep in mind that you're going to have to refill more often on these smaller nibs. Now what's happening here is the nib refuses to begin, and I'm really glad that that is happening because I think it might happen to you, and I want to show you how to fix that. All you do is just kiss the nib to water very lightly, and that will get the paint flowing. Then you can just put your nib to paper and see that worked like a dream. And remember, I said that the paint won't last long on this nib, so you're going to have to refill relatively often. Shake that off. See? How cool is that?